Radhikaya Tadalye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Krishnaya Vasudevaya.
Krishnaya Vasudevaya.
Devaki Nandanaya Cha.
Devaki Nandanaya Cha.
Nanda Gopa Kumaraya.
Nanda Gopa Kumaraya.
Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya.
Jai Sri Krishna.
Prabhu Nityananda.
Prabhu Nityananda.
Sri Advaita Gadadhara. Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we are continuing our Bhakti Shastri studies of Bhagavad Gita. We are in chapter 5, Nishkam Karam Yoga, or work in Krishna consciousness. And we are starting from the verse number 13 onward. This section is knowledge of the three doers. Knowledge of the three doers. So we are starting the verse. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasya sate sukham vasi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karyan. So, sarva karmani manasa sanyasya aste sukham vasi. So, actually it means the soul, while performing all actions with mind, he should be detached from doership and enjoying mentality of the fruits and happily stay in the body. So body is made up of what? Nav dware pure dehi. Nav means 9, dware means door. Pure dehi means this body is a city of 9 doors. Naiva kurvan, soul is not doing, na karyam, and not making anybody to do anything, or cause of doing anything. So offering all the activities into the pradhan. This is the language used by Baldev Vidyabhushan. Sarva karvani sanyas. By mind, mansa, while engaged in those activities and controlling the senses, asate. The jiva knowledge, jiva with knowledge of the atma, dehi. So dehi word is for the soul. Remain uncomfortable, sukhi, in the body which is city with 9 gates. He knows that he does nothing, nor cause anyone else to do anything. Na kurvan, na karyan. So the verse is speaking of the soul when in actually knowledge. Then he thinks work is done by the body, and with mind he just renounces every attachment to the work or fruit and happily live in a body, not doing anything, not causing anybody to do anything. Srila Prabhupada writes, embodied soul means conditioned soul, because he is embodied in the body. Lives in the city of 9 gates. The 9 gates are 7 on the face, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostril and a mouth, and 2 are the excretory organs. These are called 9 gates of the city known as a body. The activities of the body are figurative city of the body.
Recording in progress.
So activities of the body are figurative city of the body are conducted automatically by its particular mode of nature. Then which verse you remember from 3rd chapter? Please guess.
Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha.
Yes, this is the verse. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. So they are automatically carried out by a particular mode of nature. It's like that. When soul take a body of a dog, then he will bark. If a soul takes a body of the donkey or ass, then he will work and have kicks. That's it, because it is automatically made for that purpose. If the soul has a body of a demigod, then he will act as a demigod. That is the nature of the body. Like when you travel in an auto rickshaw, you will go at the speed of auto rickshaw. When you travel in a car, you go at the speed of car. When you fly in the aeroplane, you go at the speed of aeroplane. So they work on their own. So soul has nothing to do with that. Once we accept some body, then that body function according to its own nature. We cannot change that. The soul, although subjecting himself to the condition of the body, why? Because he is a conditioned soul. Conditioned by what? Conditioned by 3 modes of material nature. Can be beyond those conditions if he so desire. So if he desire to be free from the conditioning, then what is the process?
Bhakti yoga.
That is the chapter 14. Avivicharena bhakti yogena sunakasa gunan samatayitetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. By unalloyed devotional service, one can easily cross the 3 modes of nature, material nature, and fixed into his real identity as spirit soul, Brahmbhuta. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature means nature not made of modes, but nature of the soul itself. And that is Jivera Swarupa Krishna Nityadas. He identifies with the material body and therefore suffer. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of this embodiment. It means he will be freed from the influence of 3 modes of material nature. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, which means Bhakti Yoga, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. Though he is performing all the activities, but he is not attached to the doership, nor attached to the result. He is doing everything as service to Krishna through his spiritual master. In such a controlled life means a regulated life. Regulated life means regulated by the items of devotion, Vaidhi sadhan bhakti, in which his deliberation are changed. He lives happily within the city of the 9 gates. His deliberation on the fruits are the doership. I am the doer, these are mine, they change. And therefore, he is situated happily in the city of 9 gates. The 9 gates are mentioned as follows. So this is a verse from Shvetashvara Upanishad. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of the living entity, is the control of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, anus, and the glands. The living entity in this conditional state identifies himself with the body, but when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and inner activities of the material body. So what are the outer and inner activities of the material body? Outer activities are by the outer senses. Inner activities are by the inner senses, that is called antahkaran, which is made up of mind, body, intelligence and false body, mind, intelligence, mind, knowledge, intelligence and polluted consciousness are chitta. So that is called internal senses or antahkaran. Anta means internal, karan means senses. So they are bahya karan, means the eyes, nose, ear, like that. And there's a internal senses and external senses. Hare Krishna. So this is the meaning of outer and inner. In other words, he is free from the activities of the gross and subtle bodies. It means he is liberated, he is at the platform of the spirit soul. Verse number 14. Na kartitvam na karmani lokasrajate prabho na karam phala sanyogam subhavasto pravartate. Na kartitvam, it means he is not doing anything. Na karmani, he is acting. Lokasya, in this world. Srjate Prabhu. Srjate means he make happen. Prabhu here means the master of the body, soul. The jiva does not create his own capacity as agent. Prabhu na srjate. Srjate means create. Na karma phala sangyogam, which means nor does he cause others to act. Lokasya karmani kartetvam, nor does he bestow the result of action. This takes place by subhav. This one word is important in this verse. Somebody should read Srila Prabhupada's translation. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you read?
Yes.
The embodied spirit master of the city of his body does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Thank you, Prabhuji.
See, Srila Prabhupada has used the word Prabhu for the master of the body. Then Srila Prabhupada used word Subhav for the Subhav, 3 modes of material nature. So Subhav means one's nature, and the nature of a person is made by 3 modes of material nature. And where the 3 modes of material nature act? They act at the subtle body. The place where the modes of material nature exert their influence is mind, intelligence, false ego and consciousness. Therefore our Subhav is continuing with us, because we carry our subtle body with us. The grass body a person leaves with death, so his subhav is with him. So living entity, as well as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies or the natures of the Supreme Lord. Energy or nature. But is distinct from the matter. It means is a superior energy, which is another nature called inferior. The matter is an inferior nature. Soul is a superior nature because soul is living, matter is non-living. Somehow the superior nature, which means soul, has been in contact with material nature, which means body, since time immemorial. We don't know when we accepted the body. The temporary body or material dwelling place which he obtained is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant reactions, not the soul but the body. Living in such a conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. So what is the Sanskrit word for ignorance?
Avidya.
Yes, avidya. Because of the avidya he is suffering. So avidya is a root cause. And avidya is due to what? Are equivalent to false ego. Ignorance leads to avidya, or vice versa, avidya leads to ignorance. But actually false ego is created first. In a process of creation, false ego is created first. So that false ego is actually the cause of avidya or ignorance. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. So this is the one verse we have, the two verses together we have already discussed, 7 and 8. Nakurvan nakartetvam nakurvan na. This is the Sparshan, Jagran, Achan, Gachan, Sopan, Sosan, Pralapan, Visarjan. All these activities are by the body or senses, or by prana, not by soul. As long as he is in the city of the body, he appears to be master of it. That is Prabhu. But actually he is neither its proprietor nor controller. Because Isha Vasha Idam Sarvam. The Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything and is Ishwar or controller of its action and reactions. He is simply in the midst of the material ocean struggling for existence. Like we don't have even control over our breathing. It's automatical. The beating of the heart is also automatic. The whole bodily functions, they are carrying on automatically. We don't have a control on that. The waves of the ocean are tossing him. So material ocean, the waves are the modes of material nature. And he has no control over them. Which means Prakriti. And Prakriti is one of the 5 subjects of the Bhagavad Gita. And Prakriti is also not under anybody's control. His best solution is to get out of the water, which means material world, by transcendental Krishna consciousness, means by Bhakti Yoga. That alone will save him from all turmoil. Verse 15. So if the soul is not doing as a Prabhu, creating work or any result or causing anybody to work, then actually who is doing? Is Super Soul doing? This verse 15 says no. Nadate kaschit papam nachaiva sukritim vibho ajnaninavartam jnanam tena moyanti jantava. See, first line says, Nadate kashchit papam vibhu. So the word vibhu here refers to super soul or Paramatma. Prabhu in the verse 14 refers to soul. And Vibhu in verse 15 refers to Paramatma or super soul. The super soul is not responsible for sinful or pious act of jiva. Sukartim or papam. The jiva's knowledge is covered by their hostility to the Lord. Why somebody has ignorance? Because he is envious of the Lord, because he wants to be master. Ajnanen avirtam jnanam. Thus the living entity are bewildered by that ignorance and blame the Lord. Tena mohyanti jantava. So generally people say, oh, I got this accident because somehow God has done this. It was my destiny. So God has nothing to do with that. And this is the foolishness of a material world. Just go to the hospital, doctor will say, okay, I will try everything to save you. But somehow it was your luck. God has done this. And if he cures somebody, he said, oh, see how expertly I have cured you. So in this world, we want to get all benefit of success for ourselves, and all failure we just dump on the God. That is ignorance. There's a very lengthy purport by Baldev Vidyabhushan, and you have this commentary you can read, but we are reading Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Sanskrit word Vibhu means Supreme Lord, who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. Bhagavan. He is always satisfied in himself, Atmaram, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities, because he don't need any pious or sinful activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity. Then who creates? Living entity himself. But the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, this is one word now is you underline. But the living entity bewildered by ignorance, and then the most important word, desires to be put in certain condition of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. So the key word is desires. So Supreme Lord is fulfilling the desires of all living entities since time immemorial. This is a Prabhupada's prototype sentence. And what is the proof for this Vedic proof? Nityo nityanam chetas chetranam eko bahunam vidhati kaman. One Lord is fully freeing the desire of all living entities. That is the verse actually. He does not create a particular situation for, okay, a living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge, Satchitanand. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. Limited power means he is limited by the influence of mode of nature. So he comes in contact as influenced by Prakriti. On the other hand, Supreme Lord or Vibhu is never controlled by the Prakriti or material nature. He is a master of the material nature. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. But the living entity is not omnipotent. The Lord is Vibhu, or omniscient. But the living entity is Anu, or atomic. So opposite of the Vibhu is Anu. So there is a comparison of the soul and super soul here. Because he is living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Why soul desires? Because he has minute independence, free will. In a market, you have a free will. You can go and buy milk and you can go and buy wine. This is your free will. You can go to the temple and listen Bhagavatam class, or you can go to the cinema hall and listen to the worldly song. That is your free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. So his desires are fulfilled by the Lord. Nityo Nityanam, Chetas Chetranam, Eko Bahunam Viddhati Kama. And so when the living entity is bewildered in his desire, so he is confused about his desire. Desire is natural for a living entity. Either he desires to serve Krishna, or else he automatically serves Maya. Arjun desired Krishna, and Duryodhan desired the army of the Krishna. So both have a desire. One's desire is glorious, and he is called Parth Sara, friend of Parth Sarthi. And the other is evil-minded and is ultimately annihilated. So desire you must, but right desire, that we have to learn. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desire, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. That's called Lord sanctions. Because Lord is never responsible for the action and reaction of the particular situation which may be desired. He is only permitter. Like you go and ask government that please give us the license for factory. Government sanction. But then you have to build your factory. And then you have to acquire the machinery. And then you work. Now if you gain something, you are not going to give to the government because they sanction, but if you lose something, government is not going to give you subsidy because it is your business. So similarly, Lord is only permitter or sanctioner. Anumanta. Sanskrit word is anumanta. He gives anumati. Being in bewildered condition, therefore, the conditioned soul identify himself with the circumstantial material body and become subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of the life. Circumstantial means according to his karma by the influence of mode of nature. Srila Prabhupada, Lord is constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma or the super soul. And therefore he can understand the desire of the individual soul. This is an analogy for your closed book question. You underline this line. This is the analogy. How Paramatma knows the desire of the soul? The analogy is, as the one can smell the flavor of the flower by being near to it. So Lord is like one who smell, and flower is the desire of the flavor is the desire of the soul. This is analogy. The Lord fulfill his desire as he deserves. And then Srila Prabhupada just quote the common English saying, man proposes, God disposes. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. So Srila Prabhupada is actually explaining what is Vibhu. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desire, and the Lord being neutral to everyone, upadrishta, does not interfere with the desire of the minute independent living entities. So Lord is actually not a policeman that you do wrong and he will punish you, and you do good, then he will just give you reward. No. He is just watching as a witness. It is your desire what you want, and you suffer or enjoy. This is your own choice. God is simply witnessing. However, when one desires Krishna, this is the change of the desire. The Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain him and be eternally happy. So if we desire Krishna, then Krishna will give intelligence. then which verse is coming in your mind?
10.9. Dadami buddhi yogam tam.
10.10. Tesam satyuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Right? 10.10. This is the way actually to read the Srila Prabhupada's purport. Are you relishing this?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, this way, each word when you read what is actually on the subconscious of Prabhupada when he's writing the purport. All these verses are just floating in his conscious and then he's writing. The Vedic hymn therefore declare, Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in pious activities so that he may go to the hell. This is Koshitaki Upanishad. Similarly, in Mahabharata, one part which says, the living entity is completely dependent on his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to the heaven or hell, as a cloud is driven by air. This is the another analogy. So this is actually taken from Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary. These are the verses here. This is the Kaushitaki Upanishad. H2 hai A hai. Sadhu karma means pious activity. Karyati tam yam e bhayo loke bhyo unishyate. H2 eva asadhu karma means impious activities. Because the living soul desires that, so he allows that to do. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities whom he desires to elevate from this world. This is actually why this verse is said. Because when somebody surrenders to the Lord, then Lord actually reciprocate according to his desire. The Lord engages him in impious activities whom he desires to degrade. And then this is the verse from the Mahabharata. Agyo jantur anisho ayam atmanah sukha dukkha yoho ishwaro prerito gaccheta swargam vasas abharam eva. This swas abharam eva is an analogy, like a cloud driven by air. And therefore Lord leads the jiva into a state of sin or piety. In being the instigator, the Lord must therefore have the quality of injustice and must be blamed for the sin of the jiva. Why Lord is choosing somebody to go to hell and heaven or do pious and impious activities? This verse answers that accusation. The Supreme Lord Vibhu, full of immeasurable bliss and knowledge and full of unlimited energies, enjoy his own bliss. That's the definition of Vibhu. And that Prabhupada has written the 6 characters of Bhagavan, then he is omnipotent, he is self-sufficient, all this is the same. And being indifferent to all else, simply engage the jiva in activity according to jiva's impression. Impression means past karma or prarabdha. A jiva who desiring to enjoy bound up by the beginningless impression in the pradhan. Pradhan means his pradhan. In the pradhan takes a body made of transformation of pradhan just by proximity to the Lord. This pradhan means a whole, the elements by which the body is made. Therefore, Lord does not receive any sinful or pious reaction by any jiva's action. And then this is the word, Vishnu Puran. And this is the analogy which we have just read. Yatha sanidhi matrena, being near to one. Gandha kshobhaya jayate, the fragrance is experienced. Manaso no pakrititvata tathasu parameshwaraha. Similarly, manaso na upakartitva. He has not done anything, simply it is entering in the nostril automatically. He's not the cause of the, good smell or bad smell. Whatever nearby, it will come in nose. Sanidhat yatha akash kaladyah karanam taroho tathaiva parinamena vishwasya bhagavan hari. Smell smell brings about disturbance to the mind by proximity with the mind, not because of doing anything. In the same way, the Supreme Lord does not act in relation to the living entity without thought of the disturbing them. Just as by proximity, ether and time are the causes of the tree without their undergoing transformation, so the Bhagavan is the cause of universe without his undergoing contact or transformation. So this is a little more deeper understanding all these words. And more Vaishmaya Nirganya Eva, Lord is not partial to anybody. He is equal to anybody. So here we are. The living entity is completely dependent on his desires and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to the hell, and this we have done. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desires, to avoid Krishna consciousness, is immemorial desire, is not memorial desire. So is a perverted desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, because he is Anu, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience or ignorance. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. Vedanta Sutra says, also confirm that Vaishmaya Nirganyate na sapekshva tathai drishyate. The Lord neither hates nor like anyone, though he appears to. Now we are going to the verse number 16, the last of this section. I have also today my flight to catch. Okay, I just finished my seva in Mayapur. Okay, so I have to travel today. We'll finish this section, can see few more verses. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nasitam atmanaha tesham adityavad jnanam prakashati tat param. Jnanena tu tadajnanam, by knowledge, yesham nasitam atma, by that ignorance the soul is Nasna means completely ignorant. Tesham aditya vajnanam prakashati tatparam. If there is a sun rising, then all the darkness will go. So when the jiva's knowledge destroy ignorance, when jiva's knowledge destroy ignorance, that knowledge like the sun reveals the Supreme Lord and jiva. Prakashati tatparam. Jiva and Lord both. So the knowledge is required. Now the next section must be what is knowledge. But before we go to the section, read the Srila Prabhupada's translation for this.
That my pranam, Prabhuji, may I?
Yes.
When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So when sun rises, we see sun, we see ourselves, and we see the world. So this is a common question sometimes I ask to the audience, how we see. They say with the eyes. No, not with the eyes. By the light of the sun, or any light which is ultimately represented by sun. So when there is sun, we can see sun number one, Lord. Then we can see the soul, ourself, and we can see the world. So Srila Prabhupada writes, those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered. But those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. So word bewildered here is for ignorance. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Gyan Palve Neva Gyan Agni Sarva Karmani Nahi Gyanen Sadrisham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. This is the 4th chapter, all these verses. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna. And it is said in the 7th chapter, 19th verse, Bahunam Janmanamante Gyanvan Mam Prapadyante Vasudev Sarvamiti Samatma Sadram. So Prapadyante word here means surrender. So knowledge means surrender. Prabhupada says knowledge means surrender. After passing through many births, this is the translation of the verse, when one perfected knowledge surrender unto Krishna, or when one attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him as everything is revealed by sun in the daylight. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. What are the different ways? For instance, when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, this is the grossest and the worst remembrance. He actually falls into the last snare of the nescience. I give example usually when we discuss this type of subject. You have seen the game children play snake and stair game. You remember? You know snake and stair game?
Yes, Prabhu. Snake and ladder?
Yeah, snake and ladder, right. So when we are coming by our own number on the snake, then we glide down. And when we come on some, say, stair, we go up. Ladder, we go up. But ultimately, there is a one really longest snake at the 98 or something before we reach to the 100.
Yes. Yeah.
And that brings to the lowest position. That is actually thinking that I am God.
Oh, God. Yes, Prabhu.
The last snare of Maya. So the ladder is the association of devotees. If you come in association of devotees, you climb up on the higher grade of bhakti. And you come in contact with the people who are bewildered, or the non-devotees, then you are just at the point of snake's mouth and come down. Very simple. This game is very nice to understand.
Mayavadi, Prabhuji, Mayavadi. 98 is Mayavadi.
Yeah, 98 is Mayavadi. I am God. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? So Srila Prabhupada is saying many ways of bewilderment, but he is focusing most the one which why Prabhupada is discussing this immediately? Because before that he has spoken about the knowledge. And usually Jnani said, this is which means Jnani. And the Jnanis are Mayavadi generally known. Therefore Prabhupada is actually clarifying that knowledge is a different knowledge of the Supreme Lord, Vasudev, not that I am God. So Prabhupada, because he quoted the verse which refers to Jnanis, so now he clarifying what is Jnani. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience or Shaitan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be obtained. Now, how knowledge can be obtained? What is knowledge? Surrender to Krishna. How the knowledge can be obtained? By a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. It means a spiritual master. Now, we accept a spiritual master, then how can we surrender to Krishna? You remember this verse? Diksha kale shish kare atma samarpan sei kale Krishna kare aap sam. We take initiation from a spiritual master and Krishna accepts us because ultimately surrender is through a spiritual master to Krishna. Therefore, it disqualifies those spiritual masters. They never teach their followers about Krishna. This is surrender to me, not to Krishna. So, though they are disqualified. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is. For Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nescience as the sun drive away all darkness. Which verse is coming in your mind? कृष्ण है सूर्य समान माया है अंधकार जहां कृष्ण तहां माया नहीं अधिकार from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body but is transcendent to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and super soul. That is the Mayavadis. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of a perfect bona fide Krishna conscious spiritual master. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all respect, ordinarily paid to God because he has knowledge of the God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. This Lord Sri Krishna therefore stated in 2nd chapter that every living entity being is an individual and that Lord is also an individual. They were all individual in the past, they are individual at present, they will continue to be individual in the future, even after liberation. Not merging in the whole. At night we see everything as one in darkness. But in daytime, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. This is the another line to underline. What is real knowledge? Identity that I am an individual and I have a specific identity in spiritual life. I am servant of Krishna, friend of Krishna. These are one of the 5 rasas. In a spiritual life, that is real knowledge. Now we are going to the next section, which is actually liberation, focusing on the super soul. This is going from verse 17 to 26. So we are just starting this section for maybe 20 more minutes. Now in this verse, the word tad. Tat means Supreme Lord. Tvam means living entity. That's called Tat Padarat and Tvam Padarat. This is a language of the Gyanis. Tattva and Tvam. So tad buddhyas tadatmanas tannishta tat parayanaha gachanti apunar avirtam jnana nirdut kalmasha. Those whose intellect and mind, buddhyas, atmanas, and faith are fixed on me, tat, nishta means faith, who are absorbed in glorifying and serving me, tat prayanaha, tat means Supreme Lord, prayana means surrendered to, and glorifying and serving. Being washed of all ignorance by knowledge, jnana nirdhuta kalmasha, never take birth again, gachanti apunar avirtam. तो जाएं तो हूँ यार हम लेके पास से कराऊं हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So now the supreme transcendental truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the version of all Vedic literature. Par Tattva means supreme reality. Par means supreme. Tattva means reality. Who is understood by the knower of the Supreme as Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Bhagavatam verse. Advaita Tattvam. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaneti Shabdete. Bhagavan or Supreme Person of God is the last word in the absolute. There is nothing more than that. The Lord says, Mata Partaram na anyat kinchid asti dhananjaya, 7th chapter. Beyond me there is nothing. Impersonal Brahma is also supported by Krishna. This is the 14th chapter. Brahmano hi pratishta aham. I am the shelter of Brahma. Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the supreme reality. One whose mind, intelligence, faith, now Prabhupada is coming to the verse. One whose mind, Atma, intelligence, Buddhya, faith, Nishta, and refuge, shelter, are always in Krishna, Tat. Tat means Krishna. Or, in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgiving, Niruddha Kalamsha, and is in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. Means he knows Brahma, he knows Paramatma, and he ultimately also knows Bhagavan. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneous identity and individuality. This duality is a different word, not heat and cold. This duality is coming from the purport of the next previous verse. He understand that there is a duality. What is that duality? Simultaneous identity and individuality. In Krishna, of the soul is a achintya bhed abhed tattva. And equipped with such transcendental knowledge of achintya bhed abhed tattva, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Say simultaneous identity and individuality. Krishna is individual, we are individual. Krishna has an identity, we have an identity. And we are similar in identity. The achintya bhed abhed tattva. This should be understood on that line. Verse number 18. This is a very important verse. Vidavina sampane brahmane gavi hastani sunichaiva swapake cha pandita samdarshana. Vidya vinaya sampane. One who has a knowledge and has a vinaya. Vinaya means humbleness. Sampane means one who is endowed with. He can see Brahman. Gavi means cow. Hastani means elephant. Shuni means dog, and Swapake means dog eater. Pandita Samadarshan, that Pandit is actually having equal vision, because he sees super soul and soul in all living entities. The wise man sees equally the Brahman cow endowed with knowledge and good conduct, the cow and elephant, the dog and dog eater. A wise man sees Paramatma as equal in creating, the Brahman endowed with knowledge and good conduct, and cow and elephant, dog and the dog eater. These are the two translations by the Baldev Vidyabhushan and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. What Srila Prabhupada writes. Yeah, read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Yes? Yes?
The humble purport, right, Prabhuji?
Yeah, no, translation by Srila Prabhupada.
The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, outcast. Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right, so Srila Prabhupada, so there's a little, very subtle difference between the translation by the previous Acharya. Can you see this previous Acharya? The wise man sees equally the Brahman endowed with knowledge and good conduct, the cow, the elephant, dog and dog eater. Why the other translation by Baldev Vidyabhushan says, the wise man sees Paramatma as equal in creating, the Brahman endowed with knowledge and good conduct, Vidya Vinaya Sampane, the cow, the elephant, dog and dog eater. So he created them according to their impression. And Brahman knows this, and therefore he said why they are in this body, because of their karma. So God is not partial to anybody. There's a little more insight in these translations. Srila Prabhupada writes, a Krishna conscious person, which means Pandita, does not make any distinction between the species or caste. So Brahman and the outcast by difference from the social point of view, that is the caste. And dog and cow and elephant may be different from the point of species. So caste is like Brahman, Kshatri, Vaishya, and the species like animal and the birds and like that. But these differences of the bodies are meaningless from the viewpoint of the learned transcendentalists. Why? Because the soul and super soul in all the bodies are same. These bodies are created because of their karma. They don't see the outer dress. Like we don't identify the people going in the street, oh, yellow shirt person, oh, red shirt person, white shirt person, blue shirt person. No. All are human beings. So it's not identification on the outer dress. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary expression as Paramatma is present, everybody's heart. So why they have equal vision? Because they see super soul in all. And we have this photo in a picture in our book. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. Because that super soul is present even in the snake. As far as the bodies are concerned in different castes or different species of the life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone. This is the translation of the previous acharyas. Because he treats every living entity as a friend, yet maintain himself as Paramatma regardless of the circumstances of the living entity. Sohirda, the word friend, why Prabhupada writes, friend, Sohirda, Sarva Bhutanam. He is a friend of all, and yet maintain himself Paramatma regardless of the circumstance of the living entity. He may be dog, he may be elephant, he may be dog eater, but Krishna is still well-wishing friend of that living entity. Lord as a Paramatma is present both in outcast and in the Brahman. Although the body of the Brahman and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material production of the different modes of material nature, but the soul and super soul within the body are of the same spiritual quality, not quantity. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. For the individual soul is present only in the particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. So there are two words, some darshan, and the another word is samvartan. Some darshan it means that we can see the dog has a soul and super soul. And a Panditji and Brahman has same thing. But samvartan means that we can invite Brahman and feed prasad at our home, but we will not invite the dog and feed prasad on the table. So we don't have a samvartan. We don't have the same treatment with all of them, but we have the same vision. So this is a little difference. Once Srila Prabhupada was in Indore and he was criticizing Mayavadi, and somebody asked, "Oh, you must be samdarshi. You must have an equal vision." Prabhupada said, "I have equal vision that I have given Bhagavad Gita without discrimination to the Eastern, to the Western, to the untouchable, to the Brahmins. I gave knowledge of the Krishna without discrimination. That is my equal vision." The similar characteristic of the soul and super soul are that they are both conscious, eternal and blissful. They are conscious. Conscious here means, now you have to put all these three words here, Sat, Chit, Anand. You put these three words in this language. Conscious means Chit. Eternal means Sat. Blissful means Anand. So conscious stand here for Chit, Chetana. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas super soul is conscious in all bodies. The super soul is present in all bodies without distinction. Ki je band hogi? Hare Krishna, Sarya. Maybe we can. I think we can do two more verses. Ihev tair sargo yesham samya stitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmani te stitaha. Ihev means while living on this planet, in this world, Ihev. Tair jit sargo. Sargo means creation. Jit means conquered. Those whose minds are situated in equality. Yesham samya sthitim mana. Samya means equal. Mana is in a samya sthiti. Conquer over the world of birth and death. Iha eva tae jitaha sargo. Sargo means creation. Say birth and death. They are without fault, nirdosham hi. Seeing equally everything as Brahm, connected to Krishna. Samam Brahm. Therefore they are situated in Brahm. Tasmat Brahmani te stita. Now this is Chakravarti Pad. And the Baldya Vidyabhushan says, those whose minds are absorbed in equality of impartiality, in the quality of impartiality, Vidyavina Sampane. In the faultless Paramatma, they say Paramatma has no fault. Have conquered over the world of birth and death. Convinced of this, they easily attain liberation. So what Srila Prabhupada is giving translation? Translation by Srila Prabhupada?
Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhu. Shall I read, Prabhu?
Yes.
Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this word Brahma is always little confusing because the word Brahma is used for soul, Brahma word is used for the super soul also. So Prabhupada writes, equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. So who is having equal vision? The one who is self-realized. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material condition, especially birth and death. As long as one identifies with the body, he is considered a conditioned soul, but as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from the conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless. So, nirdosham hi, word in the verse, Srila Prabhupada is taking Baldev Vidya Bhushan's commentary. Nirdosham is the Supreme Lord. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Why he is flawless? Because he has no asakti or vrakti, attachment or hatred to any living entity or any condition of the living entity. So, nirdosham word is for Supreme Lord. This whole section is mostly Supreme Lord. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, similarly when the living entity has no rag and dvesh, the word is rag and dvesh. You can write the Sanskrit word for attraction is rag and for hatred is dvesh, rag dvesh. He also become flawless, so living entity also become nirdosham and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. Next verse. It means those who are living on this planet but they are jivan mukta, are liberated. Their symptoms are na prasyet prapyam priya, na prasyet priyam prapya, na dvejet prapya cha priyam. Starabuddhira sammudho brahmavid brahmani sthita. When they get something very pleasing to them, they are not very, very much feeling jubilation. And when they get something which is not favorable, they are not very morose. Sometime in Prasad you get paneer sabji and rasgulla, and sometimes you get bitter melon and maybe some very liquid dal. You have not to make any distinction between the both because this all is Prasad. Sthir buddhir asamudo, and his intelligence is fixed and he is not bewildered, asamudo. Brahmavid, because he knows the Brahma. Brahmani sthiti, because he is situated in Brahma stage. He whose intelligence is fixed in Atma, Sthir buddhi. So buddhi, he has used the word intelligence, fixed on Atma. Who is free of bewilderment due to the connection with this body, asamudho. So why somebody is bewildered? Because he thinks himself body. And who realize Brahmavid. Vid means know. And thus does not rejoice on attaining what is enjoyable, and does not become agitated on attaining disagreeable, is situated in Brahm. What's Srila Prabhupada's translation? Read.
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Sorry, Prabhuji, nothing. Did you ask to read the translation?
Yes, translation.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So what should I suppose the science of, what Prabhupada said, science of transcendence? No, what is science of, what Srila Prabhupada use word science of?
God.
Science of God. The Brahmavid, this Srila Prabhupada has taken Brahmavid, science of God. The symptom of the self-realized person are given here. The first symptom that he is not illusioned by the false identification of body with his true self. So first symptom is asamudho. Asamudho word of this verse Prabhupada has taken first. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Asamudho. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something. This is the first line. And nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to this body. First two lines. This steadiness of mind is sthir buddhi. So buddhi, Prabhupada is taking, buddhi generally means intelligence. It's called sthir buddhi or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the grass body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute Brahmavid, namely Brahm, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So he knows all this. So Brahmavid means knowing all. He thus knows his constant position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respect. This is called Brahma realization or self-realization. Such a steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Again the symptoms. Vaisprasheshva saktatma Vindate atmani yata sukham sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukham aksham ashnuti. Bahaya sprashesh asakt atma. Bahaya means outside, which means sense object. Sprashesh means coming in contact with the senses. Asakt atma means not attached to that. Vindate atmani yata sukham. But his mind is not going through senses to the sense object. Instead, the mind is going inwards towards soul. And then, therefore, he is happy. If he goes out through the senses to the sense object, he will be always suffering. But if he goes inside, mind goes inside towards Atma, then he is happy. Sab Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma, that person is connected with the Supreme Lord. Sukham aksham ashnuti, and his happiness is akshayam. Aksham means permanent, without any limitation. Ashnuti means enjoy. He who not attached to the happiness from sense object, bahaya sprashev asaktatma, attain the happiness of Atma, vindate atmanisha, then become fixed in realization of Paramatma, Sab Brahma Yoga Yuktatma, and attain indestructible asa aksham, happiness, sukham. Srila Prabhupada writes, now Srila Prabhupada is taking what is the happiness of a self-realized person and what is the happiness of a materialistic person. So Srila Prabhupada is quoting Yamuna Acharya's this very famous verse. a great devotee of Krishna consciousness. Yadavadhi mama chetah Krishna padara vinde. When my mind is going from inside to the lotus feet of Krishna, Nava Nava Rasadhamane Udyam Rantum Asit, then I am getting variety of wonderful spiritual tastes. Tadavadhi Batanari Sangame Sumrayamane. At that time, if I think outside sense enjoyment with any Nari, young woman, Bhavati Mukham Vikara Sushta Nishthavanam Eva, my mind become very dry up and I want to spit it or vomit out. It's useless. So what Srila Prabhupada is taking, the first two lines and the last two lines of this verse, and the last two lines of the present verse as the first two lines. When we enjoy with Krishna, a soul in service of Krishna, then we are always in a variety of wonderful experiences. At that time, if we think of worldly enjoyment, it is like a fig, nothing. So then there's a translation. A person in a Brahma Yoga, and now Prabhupada is using word Brahma Yoga, equivalent to Krishna consciousness, is so absorbed in loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in the term of the matter and sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under the spell, and a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which is avoided, which he avoid sannyasis, working all the time. That is the taste in his spiritual realization. That is the taste in his spiritual realization. If we have a taste of Krishna consciousness, then we lose the taste to the material. And I think all the devotees have this good experience. Now they are not interested in going to the clubs, to the restaurant, to some kitty parties, even to the mall, something. No, they only have a little business to purchase something for serving Krishna. They are not much in. We travel all over the world. People say, we can go to see this place. And what is that place? What is this place? Only we are just engaged in a Hari Katha and Hari Kirtan, no other business. Prabhupada once went to the, I think, Nairobi in Kenya. Oh, Prabhupada, there's a nice zoo. Can we go and see? Oh, Prabhupada says many animals are outside. Why we go and see the animals in the zoo? So they have no taste for this sightseeing and all these things. Or sometimes we do see sightseeing just to see the glories of Krishna, not for our own personal sense enjoyment. That's the, and every devotee has this experience now. That is the test of a spiritual realization. It means we are least interested in restaurant and film and this and television and all movies. That is the test that we have more liking for Krishna Katha. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. They cannot work together. You cannot have foot on both boats. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being liberated soul, liberated from enjoying mentality, situated in service attitude. Okay. Now these are the very wonderful verses 22 and 23. I use some time as a separate sort of lecture or seminar. Cause of misery and how to get happiness. Dukh ka karan, sukh ka sadhan. This is my separate topic. Maybe next time we'll discuss this. You have any question or comment? Because next time we can finish this chapter, I think. Next Saturday we'll finish chapter 5. Any question or comment? One hand is up. Yeah.
Mine, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam, Prabhuji. May I ask a question, Prabhuji?
Yes, Swantar. What is it? Swantar.
Swatantra, Prabhuji, Swatantra.
Swatantra. Okay, you are independent. Okay, go independent. You can ask.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Prabhuji, is there any difference between false ego and consciousness?
Yes. Consciousness. There are four things in a Bhagavatam. We see the subtle body is made of four things: mind, intelligence, false ego, and polluted consciousness. What's called chitta, and all has presiding duties for each. Like chitta has a presiding duty Vasudev. The false ego has a presiding duty Sankarsana. And the middle two have a presiding duty Anuruddha and Pradyumna. And similarly, so there is a false consciousness and Krishna consciousness. Oh, that Chetana is word there. Say false ego and Chetana. So Chit is also word used in Bhagavatam as a fourth element of the subtle body. But practically speaking, if you think like that, the polluted consciousness is due to false ego. And the true ego is that I am servant of Krishna, and that is Krishna consciousness.
Yes, sir.
So they are independent or interrelated.
Okay. So, okay, Prabhuji, I'll try to absorb it. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu, so much. And thank you so much for such a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Always, thank you.
Our next class, if Krishna so desire, we will be from Vrindavan. I hope by next class, I must be in Vrindavan. Today is 16. Yeah, I will be in Vrindavan, sure. Hare Krishna. And I am having classes, Bhakti Shastri Nectar of Devotion class, Nectar of Instruction classes. Well, that will be in English, but from Bhakti VIHE from Vrindavan. There is on-site classes, but it will be on my Facebook. If anybody is interested, they can also hear if they have time in the spare time. And when you study yourself, you may have already knowledge of that. There is a systematic study of the Nectar of Instruction. I think I have at least 10, 15 classes.
Yeah, that's on your Facebook page, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Sar Bhaumadas. All these classes are there also. Sar Bhaumadas.
Okay.
All these Bhagavad Gita classes are also available there.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Oh, Bhakta Prada. Your hand is up.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Champaklata.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Champaklata.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, my question is, like we say Pandita Samadarshina, right? In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan has said in this way. But is it possible to see with that eyesight? Is it
To see means we should see soul and super soul in all living entities. So even we see ant, we see there is a soul and super soul also in that. If we see snake, there is soul and super soul in that. Doesn't mean that that we embrace the lion because there is a soul and super soul. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can do, we cannot do that. So there is not, we can do it with equal vision, but we cannot have equal behavior with all equal people same. We cannot behave, we cannot relate with the people at the same level, but we can see the people at the same level.
There is a lot of difference between these two.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Krishna. Have a happy
I
and
think-
safe journey, Prabhuji.
Please pray for me. I have a little traveling and then I will be back in Vrindavan and then we will have classes from Vrindavan. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I have to get ready for the flight.
Yeah, happy journey, Prabhuji. Please pray for us
Haribol
also.
Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha